Black and white LAPD. Exiting establishment buzz. Hologram, probably, for the timing.
There's all kinds of slavery. There's sexual slavery, unbelievably. There's many different classes of people that are abducted for slavery, sexual slavery. They want the tops and the smartest. And because they're worth more. They have, I think, 4 or 5 different levels of people that they abduct. They abduct top medical research people. They abduct the corporate levels, and they abduct the most brilliant levels, and then they go down through 3 levels, and that says where they get sectioned off. Everybody gets to 2 planets, and then it's decided where they're going to be sent to. And but it's a massive business. It's been going on for years, and we can't identify where these people have gone. And just like normal abductions, we don't know where they went. But it's because most of them don't come back. We're only hearing from the few that came back.
Sheriff's overhead. Top base buzz, looks like.
Now, when you go within that, there are those groups of reptilians who have a command and conquer attitude. So those that have a command and conquer attitude, we're talking about the main reptilians, the Draconis. They are hostile to humanity simply because they want to maintain the status quo. So there's your one group. I don't like the word malevolent because people don't understand. Alpha Draconis reptilians eat children and eat humans. But that's not malevolence. That's because it's their culture. That's what they do, because they believe they have the right to do that. It's totally wrong. But that's what they believe, and they don't see it's wrong at all. And that's why they have the agreements with Earth governments. And as long as they get the supplies coming through to them, then they won't take it any further, and they don't come out onto the surface and cause a lot of aggro. And that's the way it's been for thousands of years.
An accurate way to describe the world might be, it's a test to see what you wouldn't do. Helicopter passing overhead. Here he goes. Looks like Apaches, a couple of Apaches.
And why is it that you suspect that the reptilians have such easy access and the Pleiadians have such a difficult time?
They own this world inside of their net. We're in a lockdown, it's a force field. And the reptilians were coming in, they were cloning them by the thousands and thousands. As a matter of fact, one of them told me that they were getting ready to invade New York.
So reptilians cloning reptilians.
Right, yes. And the ones that they cloned are all, I think they're virtually all male. They told me they have an extra Y chromosome, which makes them much more aggressive. They were getting ready to invade New York, and I thought, when I heard that there was going to be another event, kind of like maybe 9/11, but it was an interdimensional invasion. In other words, they were there to grab people who died.
In New York City.
Yeah.
The astral version of New York City.
Right.
So is the astral realm almost a mirror image of what's here?
It's similar, but I don't, like Francis is, when he moved in, and he said, we're going to keep this ship now. This is the first time I got what they do. We're going to keep these humans as slaves, and when we get tired of them, we're going to hang them and eat them. That was the first time I really got it. what this eating. This wasn't just about energy or sucking energy. This was about literally chopping them to pieces and eating them.
Jesus said, if you were of the world would love his own. Who's the his? Satan. Satan's spirit would love his own spirit. And then the people would like you. But they're not going to like you because you're of Jesus' spirit. For I have chosen you out of the world, Jesus said. It's hard to tell how popular I would be on YouTube if they weren't suppressing my videos, which, in case you're not familiar with that, it's very obvious to see. In fact, there's one really good example of this one guy. I'll put his name on the screen here in this picture. If you look at his channel, you can see he's got unbelievable. He was getting 250,000 views on all of his movies, then he started talking about the truth, and YouTube cut him down to size. All of a sudden his movies get like maybe 15,000 views if he's lucky. So, but even so, I would say that probably not as many people would watch my channel, you know, like as would watch these false prophet channels, you know, like all these people, these various people. In fact, I'm at the point now where I don't even look at preachers who on YouTube at all, because I can only stand, I can't even stand to watch them because they're just so off. And it's like oh, they're just false, man. I mean, like every time. I mean, I hate to be closed-minded because I have learned things, especially from older preachers like Derek Prince and Sturgeon, and you know, some of these people I can never remember their names, but they teach good stuff. And there's been a few that I've seen that are, in fact, they really are good. But the thing is that so many of them are so bad. I frankly, maybe to my detriment, I just can't stand them anymore. You know, it's like oh, just shut up, you know. But I mean, if somebody is saying something interesting and good, yeah, great. But I mean, at this point, one sign you can tell right away you don't need to listen to somebody is if they're rich. Okay, they have this huge mega church and they're really popular. Anybody who is gonna tell you the truth, the real truth, the unvarnished truth, the saving truth. I'm not going to say that they wouldn't have some popularity, some following, but not that much. I mean, you know, I don't want to give numbers because who knows? Who knows what somebody, like for instance, Asian preachers, they have a larger pool, you know, like Koreans or Chinese. I don't see too many Japanese, although there's two of them on the Panel Nagunde channel, Robert Atsushi and his son. But I don't hear about them too much. I don't see them. I don't hear about them. And it could just be that, like, you know, what's the really or a defining line is, are they popular whatsoever or not? You know, that's the thing. And if they are, like if they have this, you know, big following and they have a lot of money, especially if people are giving them a lot of money. But I think either a lot of money or a big following, they are going to be people that eventually, I mean, it's like, if you're going to listen to somebody, you know, it's hard to tell, but if you know God's word really, really well, and you're in the right path, you're in the right spirit, you know, you should be able to detect when people start talking, whether or not they're the real thing or not. You know, you can hear as soon as you hear something. Now, if they're wrong about something, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're a tear. You know, one of these false people, because you know, people can make mistakes. I made mistakes. That's not it. It's just that I think these preachers that they you know, like these popular ones that they have on there, you know, I mean, I had to say, I mean, you know, there's no easy way to say this, but I just don't think they're going to make it. I think that they'll be condemned And it's because they essentially serve money rather than the Lord, or a variety of other failures. But ultimately, failure altogether. Enter an establishment buzz, enter an establishment buzz. This is Buzz for uploading Reptilian shapeshifter movies to YouTube. They don't want you to know they have reptiles living among us.
And I remember, I'll swear on a stack of Bibles, I remember a lizard man in that office.
Of course, it could just be that I'm complaining that I'm not more popular. Because I look at the way YouTube is suppressing my channel, the way they're suppressing Ben Swan and so many others, and channels that they've deleted. I just can't believe they deleted Project Camelot with Carrie Cassidy and oops, we're gonna get wind noise. And then James Corbett of the Corbett Report. By the way, the CorbettReport.com. You can go and see his his updates, and they're really quite good. I would say, just as a kind of another criticism of people on YouTube, there's a guy named Brendan O'Connell, and I have one of his movies I uploaded because it was pretty informative about the Epstein Island thing. But I think he's a little bit off, is what I would say. It's just like, the way he accuses everybody, and not that I'm defending Alex Jones, but I think Alex Jones is one of his targets that he seems to say is corrupt. And I mean, maybe he is, I don't know. But my opinion is that he may have some flaws like anybody else. Anybody has flaws, but I just don't think he's controlled opposition, or that he's, raking in millions because he isn't, a good speaker and is offering something that's worth something, I mean, I think the reason he makes as much money as he does and can afford his whole operation is because he's been putting out the product for years and taking a hell of a lot of flack for it and getting banned on YouTube. I mean, so I think that when you provide something of value, the universe will return it, and that's what I think is happening in his case. Now, again, I don't know, but the way Brendan O'Connell makes him out to be like, oh, he's in bed with the Jews or something, something like that. I just don't think that's true. I think Alex Jones is sincere in what he's doing. And I was one of the people he was yelling at. You punk, right? He was talking to me. I mean, maybe not to me specifically, but to people like me who were challenging him, because I think that there is some problems with him. He's got a big ego, and there's a lot of things that like, for instance, unabashedly supporting Trump when this guy is clearly corrupt. There's a lot of people that are Trump fans out there, but they just can't separate out the difference. He does make a good point in this one recent movie that I saw. I mean, Brendan O'Connell makes a good point about how he was showing this conversation about how what they do is they make somebody the hero with so much coming against him. You could tell who's who by who's coming against him, but they're doing that on purpose. And this guy was giving this talk about how he had, that the people that were speaking against, like the big bankers speaking against the Federal Reserve. That's how they sold the Federal Reserve. That they had all these big bankers purposely come out. They the big bankers themselves, who were starting the Federal Reserve and were in on it, were coming out and speaking out against it. And then so the ordinary people said, "Oh, well, the big bankers are against it. That must be good." And they can't make the leap that that's a strategy, a very good working strategy. And I think that's I think that was a good point about Trump, because now after losing that election, I mean, I'm fooled by it. I mean, I'm like, I mean, just to be on the safe side, I'm gonna vote for Trump. But I've thought about it, and think about this, okay? He had the opportunity. Trump had the opportunity to pardon Assange, but he didn't. Okay, this is a huge issue. Assange is a huge freedom of the press issue. Okay, Assange has not been caught yet in a lie or deception in anything he was doing. Whereas all journalists in mainstream news media, I mean almost all of them, they have tons of baggage of false claims and fake news, and they're just all sold out. And the fact that they're persecuting this guy and Trump was going along with it, now maybe there was something there that he just simply had no choice. So you got to leave it simply because unfortunately there's a lot of stuff we don't know. Because there could be a situation where Trump had to continue with the persecution of Assange because of some kind of national security issue that we don't know what the full extent of it is, and that it could be like there was sensitive information to where it could be so damaging to America that it's actually still worth it to persecute this guy, even though he was just putting the truth out there. So that's just something that is one of those issues that we can't be sure about. But even so, I don't trust that, and I don't, like I said, I would certainly prefer Trump, but I didn't buy it initially, and even though this whole thing with him getting the election stolen from him and everything has got me feeling like, we got to get behind him, for this second run. But if you think about it long enough, another good point that Brendan O'Connell makes is that, they can control the elections before, during, and after. Why did they let him win to begin with? The whole thing is a psyops to keep the public, believing this whole BS charade. Meanwhile, the real pullers of the string, which is Satan and his evil beasts, who are totally, their planning and their mental capacity is totally beyond what the public is ready to accept, with the exception of those who are truly unified with the Scripture, truly unified with God's Word, truly in the Spirit. They can start to see it. But anything short of that, and even the brightest of minds would largely probably be fooled by what's going on. Another good point he makes is that one of the plans of the elite seem to be the people working directly for Satan is to make the situation so that there's so many things happening that are confusing that no one can make sense of the situation. It's an actual deliberate tactic to put so many things out there in such a way so as to make making any sense of it totally impossible. You just like totally confused as to what's going on. So it's really a brilliant tactic. Like if let's say you have some guy, well, let's take the Federal Reserve example again. So you're trying to make the Federal Reserve to enslave humanity, and you're doing so knowing what it's going to do and everything, but you got to distract from it. So what you do is you have several things happening at the same time, like the bankers coming out and being against it, then you have politicians coming out and being for it, and then you have a different banking thing coming out, like something having to do with money, just to kind of give the example that's kind of happening around that, and then some kind of political thing and a war that's at the same time, and then so like some sort of scandal, and then some invention that gets in. And so if you're like trying to get what's happening from watching the news, or getting it from various news sources, whatever you're trying to do, the way it's done is specifically so that it's mind-boggling. Like things appear to have a connection, but you don't know if they have a connection. They may appear to be linked through a certain thing, but you can't be sure, and in the moment that you're not sure about it, you can't wrap your head around what's actually happening, because there's too many things going on where you can't be sure exactly what it is.
And take a look here at this actor who is playing the role of Satan in the History Channel miniseries, The Bible. All right, so if you think it looks anything like President Obama, you are not alone. Social media blew up after the scene aired. There were nearly 20,000 tweets containing the words Obama and Satan.
And when they would come here to this place, the demons would mock them and say praise and worship, because this is your kingdom now.
Yes, we can. And you say.
Praise and worship.
Your creature of the night, Michael.
If you're watching this, it's not too late. Say this prayer now. Father in heaven, save my soul by the work of your Son Jesus on the cross, and show me your pure words in the authorized King James Bible.